Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. On today's show, we're talking about a motion that was put in front of Los Angeles City Council. On January 31st, a motion was put in front of council to expropriate an apartment building because the affordable rent covenant was due to expire after being in place on the property for 30 years. The motion was tabled by LA City Council member Gil Cedillo. The motion asked city staff to draft plans for using eminent domain to seize Hillside Villa Apartments, a 124-unit privately owned development in the city's Chinatown neighborhood. The property is currently under an affordability covenant that requires 59 units to be affordable for the first 30 years. The owner of the building sent notice to the tenants over a year ago warning them of the increase, which increased rents to market rate. That translates to an increase of about $1,000 a unit. The owner of the building is Tom Botz. He said, "I think it's a brilliant idea, but I need to know, are we living in Cuba or Venezuela?" Mr. Botz purchased the development company that built Hillside Villa roughly 20 years ago. The building's construction had been financed by a number of different government grants and loans, including a $5.4 million loan from the Los Angeles Community Redevelopment Agency back in 1986. That agency has since been abolished. The condition of the loan was the developer rent out the units in the building at below market rates for 30 years. Some other government grants and loans helped finance the building also came with their own specific affordability requirements. The affordability requirements from the development loan were supposed to expire in June of 2019. Beginning in May of 2018, tenants at Hillside Villa started to receive notices that their below-market rents would be increasing in a year's time. And in March 2019, tenants were given the option of signing new leases at the increased rents or face eviction. And in June of 2019, several tenants, with the assistance of the Legal Aid Foundation of LA, sued Mr. Botz, claiming that tenants didn't receive proper notice. That lawsuit was dropped in July after a compromise was tentatively reached, in which the building owner agreed to extend the affordability covenant on the property for another 10 years in exchange for the city wiping away the debt he still owed on the redevelopment loan. But after a period of time, Mr. Botz eventually decided not to go through with that deal. He said he had no hope that once the extended affordability requirement expired again in 10 years, activists in the city wouldn't just try to pressure him again into maintaining below-market rents. The past 6 months have seen bitter accusations between Botz, the tenants, and Mr. Cedillo's office. He's even had activists picketing at his home. Councilman Cedillo accused Mr. Botz of reneging on their agreement not to raise rents, and Mr. Botz contends nothing concrete was ever agreed to. The dispute has now culminated in Councilman Cedillo asking the city to seize Mr. Botz's property. Traditionally, eminent domain is used for projects that are considered in the public interest. These are situations where maybe you need to build a new freeway or an airport. The act of condemnation is not usually used for a city to simply buy a property. It's not clear whether eminent domain would survive a court challenge. If the city of Los Angeles does succeed in condemning the building, it would certainly erode property rights, possibly on a national scale. Why would any developer build a building, spend 30 years maintaining the property, keeping it in good shape, if they know at the end of the day the government can basically rip up that agreement? If this is a legitimate use of eminent domain, it could be used to seize other properties where affordability covenants are set to expire. The affordability covenants are usually set by HUD in Washington, which is the primary source of funding and loan guarantees for these types of projects. Mr. Cedillo's motion asked City's Bureau of Engineering to consult with the city attorney and prepare a report to City Council for seizing Hillside Villa within 30 days. And Mr. Botz says he will fight any effort to seize his property in court. It should come as no surprise that the increasing cost of housing follows the laws of supply and demand. Many within Los Angeles have opposed development and intensification. Intensification allows for more units within the city, and even though 70% of the landmass in Los Angeles is made up of roads, congestion is still a major issue. Building higher density would ultimately reduce traffic if it's accompanied by better public transit. Unfortunately, the city seems to want a large network of roads, which it has. It also wants affordable housing, and it wants no new development. For example, in 2019, LA City Council voted unanimously to oppose a state bill called SB 50 that would have legalized 4-unit homes on most residential land and mid-rise apartment buildings near major transit stops. According to a report in the LA Times, Councilman Cedillo's motion is now going to head to City Council's Housing Committee, of which he is the chair. Should the city go down the path of seizing private developments to preserve affordable units, it's definitely going to discourage investment in developing new housing. As you think about that, have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.